What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Who's Reality Cooking podcast. I'm so excited to have April Julian from Is It Cake Season 1 here with me this week. What's up, April? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on the show. I was powering through all of the episodes just before our call today, and damn, you can make some beautiful cakes. I am just astounded by your work.
That's so kind. Thank you.
No, what I wanted
Okay.
to do is I kind of wanted to find out, where you were before you started and where you are now. And so with that said, I wanted to ask, what were you doing before Is It Cake?
So before Is It Cake, I was doing something as far away from cake making probably as possible. I was the director of education for a civil rights organization. So all my colleagues were lawyers, and I was going and traveling across Canada often, talking to people of different ages from like kindergarten to senior citizens, basically about constitutional law.
Wow, that is so interesting, but definitely so different.
Very different. Yeah. Yeah. And not as fun.
I can imagine. So what prompted you to try out? What kind of got you on the show?
So when this all happened, I was a new mom. My kid was just about turning 2 or recently did. And I got a DM in my Instagram account. And I had been posting cakes, very, intermittently. There was a time I think I hadn't posted a cake when my child was just born for like a year. I think I had like 200 followers, most of whom were my family and friends. And the DM said, we think you'd be great for this show. You'd have to come to LA. And I instantly thought it was some kind of scam and just fully ignored it. And they contacted me again in Facebook, and I think through some other accounts that I had. And I was certain that, again, this sounds very fishy. Like, there's no way some random person wants me to fly to LA during the pandemic on top of that, right? So I completely ignored it. And then after a while, I told my husband, like, somebody keeps contacting me about being on this show in LA. And he's like, what? He's like, why don't you at least like respond and find out what it's about? And sure enough, it was, Is It Cake? And even after sending that email, I was still reluctant to meet with anyone, over Zoom. I was just like, yeah, sure. This is all I'm sure this is some kind of Ponzi scheme, I really did everything I possibly could to not be on this show. And when I finally, followed up, had a couple meetings, and every single time I had a meeting with someone, my attitude was always like, let's see what this is all about. So I think that helped with my nerves. So I just was very free to like say whatever, because I was like, yeah, okay, show in LA, and it turned out to be real.
Oh my gosh, I have to tell you that I have interviewed at least 4 other people from Is It Cake, and they all think that first initial DM was spam. I don't know who was sending it out, but it must have come from such either a spammy sounding name or the way they typed it up. And don't even worry, everybody, that's not your text going off while we're chatting here. April is just very, very popular. But no, it's all good. But yeah, everyone is saying they thought it was spam. It's so funny that it's just this constant across all of the different contestants. And speaking of, so you finally go on the show. When you got there, did you find that you knew some of the contestants or knew of them because of social media?
At that time, I was just completely buried in motherhood and work and balancing these things. And it was COVID. So I just was like in this weird headspace where I was living under a rock. I didn't really follow anybody, but I remember when I saw Johnny and Andrew, I was like, you look very familiar to me. I mean, Andrew is an unmistakable face, right? So I just remember thinking, like, you look very familiar. I feel like I've seen you on Food Network. but I didn't know who they were. But very much, I felt like a fish out of water because again, like that was not my full time job. Being a baker, I didn't have a professional bakery or anything, so I was just sort of like, why am I here? Why did they pick me? Like these folks are bakers. Like I don't know how and why I'm here. I also was the only Canadian, so it's just like this really has to be a mistake.
Wow. Sorry, spoiler alert, but you ended up getting to the finale. You were what number? You were in second place, is that right? And
Yeah.
so, just to kind of bring that all full circle, you don't have to be a master baker to show up and really do an amazing job on these shows. So, as one cooked home cook to another, thank you. Thank you for representing us so well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that maybe it's the same for you. I'd been doing it for a long time on this side, never thinking this could be anything beyond just this, hobby that I had, this passion that I had. And this fully thrust me into like, maybe you are better than you think you are, essentially.
I think absolutely. So, what are you doing now? Are you working in a bakery now? Are you still working in the whole law world?
No, so that world is now far behind, which is funny because sometimes I'll get a DM from a former student. They're like, I think you taught me some constitutional law. Like, yeah. And I also taught you to eat a raw chicken wing, so I'm not sure it's the same. Like, yeah, that's me. So I'm not doing that anymore, the teaching stuff, but I am full time baking now. I mostly sort of do commercial stuff. Every now and then, I'll do a private client event. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I didn't know there was a world of baking for like commercials and product lines and things like that. So
That's
here
great. So, are you allowed to share some of the campaigns that you've worked on for these product lines?
for sure. I mean, they're all like very visible out there on the internet. I've worked with, big brands like KitchenAid. I never thought I'd be making a KitchenAid mixer. That was the first mixer I ever had. Of course, I think every home baker, the moment they get their first KitchenAid mixer, you're just like, I'm here.
It's my baby.
And then I get asked to make one by KitchenAid. So that was really like, what is this life I'm living right now? McDonald's, Lululemon, like just you name it. So many that I'm just like, really? Have I really in the span of this many years like worked with these brands that I'm of course familiar with myself? It's been crazy.
That is so cool. And I noticed on your Instagram handle that you said you had been on the Rachel Ray show. Did you bake on there or were you creating stuff for the show?
So I had been asked to do like an at-home segment, and I made my raw chicken wing cake pop, and I think I just like pretty much alienated myself from her entire audience because
Oh no.
how gross they looked in the end. But that's what she asked me to make, so that's what I made, and yeah, it was fun.
Was that during COVID? Is that why they had you do it at home?
No, I think that was when was that? Last year or so.
Okay.
But she had been doing for a while like a format where she'd kind of highlight a home baker or another celebrity chef from their homes creating something.
That's really neat. I've actually done her show several times. And when I saw that, I had my fingers crossed because there was this hilarious segment where they had the Dr. Pimple Popper. I'm sure you've heard of her. Oh,
Yeah.
God. So she comes onto the show and they don't want to, do that on a cooking show. So they use cupcakes and they have pimples on them. And so she's showing how to pop them. And then I'm waiting for my segment to start. And Rachel turns to me and she's like, man, I'm never going to be able to eat another effing cupcake ever again. And so I was partially hoping it was yours because they looked so realistic. But I was like, damn, too bad we weren't on the same one.
I wish.
Isn't that crazy?
I wish I had thought of that. Oh, that's horrendous.
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
you got to look it
I
up.
don't know.
You got to look it up.
Yeah. Maybe that's my next. Oh, I don't even think I can do. I don't think I could handle that, to be honest. The raw chicken wing is enough. Yeah.
That's your limit. Oh, that's too funny. So on the show, you made some really amazing different pieces. Obviously, you're probably really well known for the sneaker
Mhm.
because there's tons of sneakers all over your social media. So, out of all of the different amazing cakes that you made on Is It Cake, what was your favorite cake and what were the flavors? What made it your favorite?
Oh, my favorite hands down was that weird little decoy duck. I just was so happy with how it turned out. And okay, so the flavors were, oh, if I remember correctly, it was vanilla bean cake with a coconut white chocolate ganache and a mango coulis. And I was trying to sort of bring the flavor profile of a familiar Asian dessert, which is mango sticky rice, to sort of bring my culture into this cake. I was thinking, okay, this is my second bake. This is the elimination bake. Here's my chance to actually like infuse some of my country's flavors. So, fun fact that I baked actually two duck cakes that day. One of them didn't quite work out. I think it was, I had initially started with a white chocolate coconut ganache, but it didn't set firm enough. And so when I put the cake together, it all sort of oozed out of the side of this like sort of football shaped thing. And I threw it into the blast chiller and then immediately was like, okay, what do I got to do? So I put together a quick Italian meringue buttercream that was coconut flavored, and that was the finished cake. The next day, one of the staff says, there's this weird like blob in the blast freezer. What is that? Oh, that's my dead duck. I told you rock hard, but that was my dead duck.
Oh
I don't
man,
know
that's
if
so funny.
anybody that story, but yeah, that was the flavor. And there were two of them. And I managed somehow, I was panicking. I was like, oh, this is not working. I'm running out of time. And I just like went into April, like hyper fix mode, made a new duck. And it turned out so like better than I could have imagined. And I was so, so happy with it.
One thing that really stuck out to me, and I've asked a couple of other contestants. So when you're in the confessional and you're talking, to the producer, to the camera, and they're asking you questions, there is a stack of money underneath a glass little holder. Is that cake?
I have
Is
no
the
idea.
money cake?
I
Nobody
don't we
knows.
just never even thought twice about that yet. Like the fact that you thought about that, I think again, like in that setting and in my mind, and even watching it back, like it's just such like so bizarre to me that I was ever on that show that all that background stuff I didn't even notice. So it very well could be. I think I have to watch it back again and see. I feel like if I watch it back, I could tell you, I could maybe detect, but in my recollection, I have no idea. That'd be a lot
I,
of effort for like just to have it in the back like that.
Oh, I know, and they'd probably have to refrigerate it every day. I've asked several contestants that question. Nobody has looked. So I guess the confessional time is, a little bit more about get the work done. So when you had downtime on the show, did you get a chance to bond with the other contestants or were you guys kind of kept separate?
Initially, we were very much kept separate. And I think after, as the days went on, they allowed us time to socialize. And so we would go on walks together. And we got to sort of eat together at one point in the hotel lobby. And that was fun. I remember just sort of being like, oh, are we being too loud? Because we were just like dying laughing, like telling stories. And I was a little bit worried that the other guests in the hotel were like, what the hell is up with this table of weirdos?
Oh, it's really cool when you're in this world of cakes and maybe you don't have a ton of other people in your life who are as into it as you and then you end up in this group of people who are as enthusiastic as you are. It's hard not to get overly excited, I can imagine.
Especially in my world, because my world is lawyers. And then
Yes.
here I am. I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever sat down and had a chance to talk to someone else who makes the kind of cakes I do. And just be like, how would you do this? And just talk about cake. So it was so nice. And it was maybe the first time I'd ever had the chance to do that.
Well, that's really cool. Now, one part that kind of stuck out to me is I believe it was the first time you were baking, you were looking for cocoa powder or there was something that you were looking for. And I wanted to know, did they give you a tour of the pantry ahead of time or was that just nerves? Or did they kind of just throw you in there and they're like, figure it out?
They definitely showed us around, like what's in the drawers, here are the tools available to you. But on the day, and lights are on you, every piece of knowledge in your brain just like oozes out of your ears and there's nothing left. And you're like, where's the flour? How do you make cake? Like, maybe they showed me where the coke. I don't know what it was I was looking for. If it wasn't immediately within my eye line, I was like, where is this? Where do you store eggs? It's like, try the fridge, you know? Just there's so much stress and strain that your brain just like doesn't operate as efficiently as it could. So they did give us a tour. That was just the failure of my own brain.
Oh no, it made you extra lovable. So don't even look at it as a failure, and at the same time I was like, wait, are they asking them to talk things through as well? So just because, sometimes production will ask you to talk about certain stuff. And did they ever ask you to have a specific conversation or ask other contestants questions while you were baking or while you were watching others bake?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, sometimes they'd be like, why don't you ask Johnny, or why don't you ask Justin's what he's doing right now, or something like that, just to start conversation. There was that one conversation I remember vividly with Justin where we're talking about old technology, and he's like, I don't know what a Walkman is. Just being real about his youth.
Yes.
And I can't remember how that started or why I was talking about my desire to have a phone in my room as a teenager, but that was very organic, and that sort of defined our relationship as like he's going to constantly tease me about our age gap, and I'm going to constantly tease him that he doesn't know anything about anything.
I loved that. And then they even mentioned it later on, if you want to feel old, sit next to him.
Yeah.
So funny. Oh man. Now, on the very last episode, when you guys were down to the wire, you had both, you were in second place. Both of you guys had made these amazing cakes and totally stumped the judges. And then they had to figure out which one did they like best.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of shooed everyone out of the studio. Were you guys just on the other side of the wall? Could you hear what was going on, or did they really just completely remove you from the room?
There was a long time where we were in the room, and they were taking forever. And I was just like, what is going on here? Yeah, and then at some point, eventually they shooed us away, and then we waited a little bit longer in our rooms and then came back. I just remember feeling like this is taking a long time. So they were really deliberating about it. I didn't catch wind of anything they had said, but I was like, what are they talking about? It was
Wow.
excruciating.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. How long do you think you waited to find out after that last bake?
I don't know.
A few hours?
It felt like that, but it could have been under the pressure of the situation. Like maybe it was 10 minutes in real time, but it felt like a long time. Even there was a point where I think they were ready. And I think I was sort of standing next to Andrew and I was like trying to grab his hand because I'm like, I'm going to follow. I'm so like freaked out. And even that felt like a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they finally gave the result. And I was like, to be expected. I was really sure that was what was going to go down. But yeah, it just took a long time.
Well, I can tell you that most people who come in second place or don't win are the ones who end up excelling in a really interesting and fun way in their career. So I wouldn't let it get you down. You definitely showcased some amazing work. It was amazing.
Wow. You know what? I was not disappointed. I was like in utter shock that I was even on this show from the get-go. So the fact that and it sounds so cliche, but like truly like being in that position, I was like, what? So I was so happy to be there at all, let alone in that finale.
You definitely, you killed it. So you earned being there for sure. But I get where you're coming from. So after the show wrapped, did you end up getting like a huge response on social media? Was that quick or did it take a while? How did that all work out?
I mean, it was pretty swift. I think no one expected I don't know if I want to say no one expected the show to be as popular as it was. I kind of thought, wow, that was a really cool thing we did. I wonder how people will receive it. But then when we started seeing like, GQ writing about it and like people saying like, this is a cake show that is for people who don't watch cake shows normally. It's almost like a weird little game show. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like reaching beyond the usual sort of audience for baking competitions, which I thought was pretty cool. And then I had like request after request for media interviews, and particularly in Canada, right? Because being the only Canadian on this American TV show, Canadian media outlets love that kind of story. So I think I was on every single Canadian, breakfast show and, radio show I could be on. So there was a lot of response from the media. And then of course the social media following as well, which was crazy because like I think I put a story up once like, in let me know where you're watching from, and like the answers were crazy, like all over the world, and I was like, what? So it was just a blast. Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, that is really, really cool. And you had kind of touched on what you were doing now, but do you feel like the show just really just propelled you into a whole new life? And what did that feel like? And what would you want to kind of promote that you're doing right now?
It's most certainly thrust my baking life into a whole different direction, to the point that I had the luxury of I don't want to say the luxury. Like I did love my job at the time, but for a while, deep down I always thought of myself as an artist. I would have loved to like, be able to stretch my creative muscles more, and this gave me the opportunity to do that. So there was enough coming in that I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I actually could, if I wanted to, do this and make earn a living out of it." So yeah, I owe it 100% to that show. I literally think I had maybe 250 followers before all of this. And yeah, so really, I think I love the opportunity to make insane cakes. I don't very often make cakes that look like cakes as you might see on my feed. So when I get a new request from whether it's a brand or someone just asking for like the most bonkers replication of their childhood toy or whatever, it really makes me so happy. I love a good cake challenge.
That is
Bring
awesome.
on more of those.
Yes, yay. What's your favorite of all the cakes you've made since the show has aired?
Oh, there was this one, and it was really a sweet story. This woman had this teddy bear since she was a child, and she had just had twins herself. These were her first little babies, and that resonated with me as first time mom. And her husband, I think it was a milestone birthday coming up, had asked me to replicate her childhood teddy bear for her because it was just this like beloved bear throughout her life. And so I had replicated the teddy bear and then put a little picture frame of their new twins in the teddy bear's lap. And it was, yeah, and it turned out so well. And I think that I really captured the texture of an old teddy bear, that sort of matted, ratty fur that you only get when you really love a stuffy, which
Yes.
I think, like, even now, I'm like, oh, I think I did a good job. Like, I was very proud of that. Yeah, I think that was one of my favorites for sure, because it had a story behind it too. Yeah. And as far as other things I want to be doing, like I loved being on that show. It'd be cool to do more stuff like that. I've had a couple opportunities, to do different things, sort of media wise. And like, I just love it. I love to talk. I love to laugh. So the more I can do that with people like this is great too. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad to have you on. You're such a get for our first season. So thank you. Oh man. Are you still in contact with anyone from the show? You guys still hang out or chat or any of that?
I wish we could hang out. I'm in a different country altogether, but
I
like,
know.
yeah, if ever, of course, if I find myself in LA, I will, hit up Johnny. Dustin doesn't live too far away. He's like an hour flight. We haven't had a chance to like really connect, but we text each other a lot. Just like, how did you do this? Or what's some advice? What advice do you have for that? And I think like, yeah, there a few of them, like I think we have like a forever bond and friendship. It's kind of like trauma bonding in a way. Because you
Oh
go through
yeah.
this very specific weird experience. Like I don't think you can ever forget the people you did that with, right?
No, I totally agree. And I did a show many years ago, 10 years ago, and I'm still incredibly close to a lot of people from it. So I definitely get where you're coming from on that.
Yeah.
I do know that I interviewed Desiree and she had done something for season. I know she's so amazing and so much fun. It was such a fun interview, but she had made something for season 2, a decoy cake for
Mhm.
season 2. Did they happen to contact you and ask you to do any cakes for any of the other seasons, or are you not allowed to say?
There was a project that they had asked me to be involved with. Was that season 2 or season? Yeah, it was season 2. I just was unfortunately not able to travel at that time to do it. It was they were doing some stuff at Madame Tussauds in Las Vegas. I don't know if you saw any of that promo stuff. Yeah, it was an unfortunate thing to miss out on, but yeah, I would love, 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 obviously, like that show did a lot for me. So anytime they ask, like 100%, the answer is yes. Netflix Canada, I did some stuff with over Christmas. They had a launch party here. They had a new headquarters. So they invited all the media, Canadian media, and I was sort of hiding behind this velvet curtain. They didn't know there was going to be an Is It Cake replica game. So I was there and it was so much fun. I had made, I always want to call him, it's Thing, the hand from Wednesday.
Yeah, Adam's Family. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Had made a Thing replica and also the doll from Squid Games, and they had to guess like which one was the cake, and it was so fun. It was such a fun holiday party. So yeah, that was also um, a great time, a nice thing to be invited to do.
That is really cool. Yeah, Netflix is really churning out some interesting stuff lately, and between your show and I've also been interviewing people from School of Chocolate, they are really trying to kind of change or break the mold of what the traditional reality cooking or reality baking show is, and they're putting out some good stuff. They
Yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
are.
And like raising the game for what chocolate can look like, what cake can look like.
Yes.
When I see all the stuff that comes from the School of Chocolate, and of course, chef, just like, "Ugh, what is that? Like, how is that? That's not the sort of chocolate bonbons that I remember as a child, right? And I'm sure people say the same thing about like cakes that are being made today, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, your work was just so beautiful. I can't wait to see more of it. I hope on more TV shows. Is there anything else you want to share? Anything you want to plug or ask people to follow?
Maybe I'll just say my socials if people want
Yes,
to
please.
work. Um, so yeah, if you want to see more of my work, maybe be grossed out by some of my raw chicken wings, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at April Julian Cakes.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much for making some time in your busy baking and mommy schedule. I'm so honored to have had you on the show. I can't wait to see what you're going to do next because you're just so much fun to watch and so genuine and so talented. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Audrey. It's absolutely my pleasure anytime.
Oh, awesome. Well, everyone, be sure to check out April's social media. Be sure to check out her raw chicken wings and make sure to tune in to the next episode of Who's Reality Cooking. Thanks again, April. Bye.